y'all, it's Kate from the Literary Apothecary, and welcome back to my channel. Hey y'all, welcome back to another reading vlog on the Literary Apothecary. My name's Kate, and I have just started A Dance with Dragons by George R.R. Martin, the fifth and kind of final book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. Just finished the prologue, and we are with a skin changer who, as I remember from the shows more than the books, this is what Bran can do. What we've also learned in this prologue is Jon Snow can do also, but he doesn't know that he can do that. But the person that we were behind of the point of view here says that he can tell that Jon Snow has that. Before the prologue, we also get a note from George R.R. Martin himself saying that this book, at least half of this book, is in tandem with the last book, A Feast for Crows, which goes along the this book is half of it is in the points of view of essentially Jon Snow and Daenerys and all that surround them that we didn't get in the last book, and then at some point in this book it switches to characters that we've gotten from Feast of Crows, and that's when the story moves forward. So with the Jon Snow and Daenerys chapters, we're at the same time as the Feast for Crows, and then once it switches, he says it's an obvious, you obviously know it's an obvious change. So I'm interested to see where this is going. I love this idea of just having books in tandem at the same time, going along with different characters. So I'm really excited to see where this fifth book shakes us in this story. So after the prologue of A Dance with Dragons, we start off this book with Tyrion, and he is hidden in a wine casket and has arrived in Pentos on his escape from prison, which is great. We were wondering what happened to Tyrion. Well, at least I was, because I love that character. I love his character, and I was hoping for the best for him. So it's great to be back in his point of view. He's drinking around Pentos now, wondering where the horrors go, and reflecting on things that he's done back at King's Landing. So I am so excited to get back into this world and see where Book 5 really takes us. And of course, as I usually do, I forgot to read off the quote that I had marked down. This sums up Tyrion's life so well. From page about 29 in the Mouse Market paperback. Tyrion Lannister had lived all his life in a world that was too big for him. So, well, sums up Tyrion's life. So I know it's been a while since I've checked in. I didn't really get as much reading time as I thought I would while I was gone at convention. But I'm here to update on A Dance with Dragons. I'm almost 100 pages in, and I'm enjoying this a lot. The most interesting thing to me so far is that it seems like all of our points of views are leading to Daenerys as she travels across this world and is seeking out essentially the Iron Throne in Westeros to take back the throne for her father, but more for herself. And so we get Daenerys' point of view and all that she's doing on her travels, freeing all of these slaves and whatnot, and then we get points of views of all of these people in power or searching for power that want to align themselves with Daenerys in various aspects to help her and themselves gain power on the Iron Throne. And so that is really interesting to me, that all of these men are looking to align themselves with this woman for power. Usually in fantasy, you see it the other way around, where the woman has to align herself with a man to get power. But in this instance, Daenerys is the one that has all the power in these people's minds, in these men's minds. And that is kind of inspiring as a woman. So I'm loving it. So I know it's been a while since I checked in last about A Dance with Dragons. I've been enjoying this read, but there hasn't been a whole lot that kind of struck out at me that I've had to check in about. However, I just finished a Reek chapter, and a whole bunch of bells have been going off for me. So Reek is Lord Ramsay's kind of servant man, and we've learned when he went to another place for Ramsay that he is Lord Balon's son, aka Theon Greyjoy. We haven't seen Theon in a while. We've heard of Reek before, we've heard of these characters before, but we haven't seen them a lot until this book. And I believe the last time that we heard of Theon, people assumed that he was dead along with his brothers. So this is kind of a huge bucket drop here, a huge mic drop by George R. R. Martin in this 5th book. I'm trying to treat this as if it's the last book because we don't know yet if we're getting the other 2 books, although I've heard rumors on Discord that the 6th book is actually nearly complete. And so we'll probably get at least some version of that at some point. But it's been like over 10 years since we've gotten Dance of Dragons. So I'm trying to treat this as if it's the last book. But that kind of revelation right there with Theon makes me want to know what is going on with this whole thing. Theon gets back to Ramsay, and almost nearly at the same time from a different place, we get this Ramsay's dad arrives with his new wife, and who Lord Roose believes is Arya Stark. Ramsay knows right away that it's not Arya. She has different colored eyes, and she's treating him way too respectfully, more so than Arya would have done. He has put it together that this is Sansa's friend Jane Poole, but he's gonna, at least at the end of this chapter, this came at the very end of the chapter, so we don't know for sure yet, but it sounds like he's probably, because he's Ramsay and he's an a-hole, he's gonna go along with it and force this girl into this marriage and relations, and I feel for her. But that's been the biggest revelation so far since I last checked in. I am making good progress on it. I'm about 300 pages in now, and we will see where all of this goes. So I like Ash's character more and more the more we get to see her and her point of view. In this last chapter, she is fighting in a battle to go home, and it's a battle in the dark that no one knows about. She's fighting the Northmen, the wolves she calls them. And there's this set of lines here in the middle of the chapter that just gave shivers up and down me the first time I read it. No singer would ever make a song about that battle. No maester would ever write down an account for one of the reader's beloved books. No banners flew, no war horns moaned. No great lord called his men about him to hear his final ringing words. And that just sums up that battle and basically like Asha's fight in general, and I just love everything about that. I wrote that down instantly, and that just sings out kind of the lesser characters of this whole series. So another update here from A Dance with Dragons. I'm almost 50% into this book according to the audiobook, and I've just read a chapter with Bran, and Bran is learning how to now go into other things besides the crows with his senses, whatever you call them. He's now been able to go into trees, and he can essentially view events that the trees have seen themselves. So he's seen the past of his family and further past the family that he currently knows. I came away with 2 quotes from page $4.95 in the mass market paperback edition, with this silver cover here. This one. The first one says, dreams became lessons, lessons became dreams. Things happened all at once or not at all. And that's kind of like that. You got to take life by the horns method. Do it now before you can't do it anymore. That kind of thing. And then the second one is something that I've heard many, many times before. And I'm not sure if it's a quote from this book or if George R. R. Martin is reattributing an earlier quote from someone else. I didn't really look into the history of it, but it's definitely one I've seen all over the place, but one that I love so much. A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies, said Jojen. The man who never reads lives only one. I've seen that quote so many times in different situations, in reading, in people talking about reading, in merch about reading, just it's like everywhere. I'd be interested to know if anyone out there knows if that quote that you see everywhere, if this is a quote George R. R. Martin made up or he took it from somewhere else. But that's it for now, and I'll check in with y'all again soon. So about 75% into A Dance with Dragons, and a couple of things to kind of comment on now. Jon Snow has been brought, Tormund, the kind of leader of the Wildlings, I think. I remember him from the show, and I remember really liking him. He seemed like a really good spirit, so I'm hoping that's going to be the same here in the book. After that, we got a Cersei chapter, and this is where we start to see kind of a little tiny bit of humility in Cersei. She is locked away in prison, and she decides that she's had enough and she wants to admit to her sins, confess her sins. She admits to some of the things she's charged with, but not the most important or the biggest things. And the High Septon decides that she will go on trial for all of the things that she's been charged against, including incest and murder and ordering the murder of his predecessor, the High Septon. And essentially that's when we're going to get that walk of shame. She also learns that her daughter, Princess Marcella, was attacked, and she's lost an ear, and Cersei is convinced that Tyrion was behind this. So that's kind of where we're at now. We don't get as much humility from Cersei in the book right now as we did in the show. But maybe once this trial comes and this walk of shame happens, then that's when we'll really see it. She confessed some of her sins. She says she did it for Tommen, for her son, because she was scared for him, because Joffrey was killed and King Robert was killed and her father was killed. She was afraid they would come after Tommen next, and she couldn't trust the White Cloaks, the King's Guard, to protect him because they couldn't do it for Joffrey. So you see a little bit of the mother's protectiveness in there, but it's also Cersei Lannister, so you're not sure exactly which words to really trust. So that's it for now, and I'll check in again soon. So, Dance of Dragons, we finally had the iconic scene of Cersei walking down the streets of King's Landing completely naked, completely cleared of all hair from her body. The Septas shaved everything off, and Cersei's being yelled at, whore, all these, slurs and terrible things. This scene is so important for Cersei's character, and it's even more moving and terrible to read in the book than it was in the show, because it's all there, and she gets, memories of when Ned Stark was killed, and that he wasn't supposed to be killed. He was supposed to be sent to the wall, but Joffrey didn't show him the mercy that he was supposed to. And she, starts seeing essentially ghosts around. She sees Ned Stark, and she sees Tyrion, and she sees her father in the crowd, and it's just a really hard scene to read, but it's so important for her character because it shows so much. And then at the end, she reaches the castle, and she finally gets a champion to fight for her, and Sir Robert is this new champion, and it's an important moment for Cersei and the whole crew in this series, and it's just such a pivotal moment in this series. So I'm only a couple chapters away from the end of A Dance of Dragons, and so the Prince of Dorne went after Daenerys' dragons, and basically he got roasted. I feel like that scene could have been a lot worse, and George R. R. Martin handled that well. And then we switch over to Jon Snow and the men at the wall, the Watch. Jon Snow gets a letter from Ramsay Bolton saying, "I've killed Stannis, a half-man's raider, and I am going to kill you. I'm going to rip your heart out." Jon Snow announces that he's going to go after Ramsay Bolton. And then his men turn on him. And we get kind of almost a Julius Caesar assassination reenactment, where man after man after man turns on Jon Snow and says, "It's for the Watch, it's for the Watch." And it just reminded me so much of the assassination of Julius Caesar, where his council and his friends essentially turned on him because Caesar was becoming a dictator, and they would, for the Republic. So it was very reminiscent of that. I think I have like 3 chapters left. I'm very interested to see where this book ends, because this is the last book we have written so far in this series, and we know how the TV show ends, but we don't know how the books end. Well, at least I don't know, because this is my first read of them. So I'm very interested to see what happens in these last couple chapters. It's done. I finished Dance with Dragons yesterday, y'all. This book was so good. That ending is such a cliffhanger. I can't believe this is the last book we've gotten from George R. R. Martin in this series, because I need to know what happens in the last 2 books, 6 and 7. I know we have this TV series, but it's not the same. It's not how he had imagined it, and I gotta know how he wants to end it. Like, yes, he approved of all the stuff that happened in the TV show, but it's not the same. I need these books. I gave Dance with Dragons 5 out of 5 stars, y'all. Daenerys wandering through the desert like that with the dragon looming over her, wondering if he's hunting her or not, was insane. Cersei is still waiting for her trial by combat. This book was so good. I need to sit down and figure out what my series rating is, but it's definitely up there as one of my favorite series. It's literally one of the best series I've ever read, and it's just so good. So good. So thank you all for watching and supporting and all of that. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of A Dance with Dragons. And I love you all to the moon and back.